Come on in. Welcome. Come on in. We'll let people start trickling in. Welcome to the TEDx training class. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Christopher, Abraham, Jenny. Keep on coming in, rolling in, rolling in. Good to see you all joining us today. Super excited to be with you. I always like to, hey, Tim, I love that you hop on these things ongoing, sporadically. It's good to see you. Can't wait to meet next week. I think we're scheduled. Looking forward to that. And I always got to start with some intro music, y'all. As people start trickling in, feel free to jam and just feel a little bit of that. There goes that shoulder. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now I'm feeling like I can get into this thing. All right. I'm super excited for those of you who are joining us, those of you that will join us, those of you who are watching this on replay. Welcome. If you are joining us in the chat, I would love to hear where you're joining from. You could just say, hey, I'm in Houston right now, or wherever you are in the world, and pop that into the chat if you like. Try to build a little bit of community with everyone here. And if you could, maybe just say, if you're a TED fan, maybe just say, hey, this is my favorite TED Talk. I really love Brene Brown. And that's totally fine because we all love Brene Brown. And I'm going to try and take her advice and be vulnerable here, but not too vulnerable. There's an appropriate amount of vulnerability. I don't want to overshare either. So, all right, let's see who's out there. Love the music. Oh, thanks, Abraham. I appreciate it. Coming in, joining us from Maryland. Good to see you, my friend. Tim, talk to Abraham. Say something. Introduce yourself. Let's see who else is there. Tim, in my house and a fan of a lot of TEDx. He says hi. Okay. All right. Well, that'll have to do for now, y'all. Let's just go ahead and jump right in, okay? Okay. So this is the TEDx training class, folks. Here's what we're going to be covering: the TED mission and how to apply it, how to easily find TEDx sites and sites that are seeking speakers. And also we're going to chat about writing a powerful TEDx talk and through line. And then finally, of course, what does a winning TEDx application look like? So we're actually going to look specifically at what the application looks like, what a good submission video looks like, and all that good stuff. So we can fire away. I want to say, look, for me, TED, I absolutely can change your life. And giving a talk for me changed the way that I felt about public speaking. And I just fell in love with public speaking. I fell in love with the TED form. The talk itself did really amazing things, and it just had a huge impact on me personally and professionally. And it could do the same for you. And so what did that look like? I mean, for me, when my first talk came out right away, I booked speaking gigs, and I wasn't really doing professional speaking at the time. I wanted to move into it. And, within the first couple of months, I booked like a dozen gigs, and they were like at 3,500 a spot minimum. And I got with a speaking agency, and things just kind of went from there. And so it was really beneficial for me. I then did another talk, and I have a third talk coming up in this fall, which is super exciting. And that has led also to an upcoming book, which I'm really, really excited about. More to come on that. But ultimately, like, what I have fallen in love with is helping others get to the stage and figure this thing out. Because, for me, the first journey that I had with TEDx and the application process, and then trying to figure out how to craft the talk, it was really hard, and it wasn't as supportive as I wanted it to be. And there was a lot that I learned from that. And so I decided to give back because I love teaching. and it's just snowballed from there. And the outpour of interest and relationships that I've built from this has just been enormous. And there's a ton of success stories like that. You know, we all know Brene Brown, right? The TEDx, the one of the most popular TEDx talks ever is her talk on vulnerability. I think it's got like, I don't know, almost 80 million views now or something. Simon Sinek, Sean Aker, if you haven't seen his talk, it's just completely brilliant and so funny. You have to watch it. And then Nancy Duarte is another one, which I reference regularly because her talk, which is called, I think, The Secret Structure of Great Talks, I believe is the title. It's really beautifully, simply delivered and so easy to understand and apply to the work that we're doing here. So TED Talks work, all right? They drive interest, they create impact. That's why you're here. That's what's so cool about them. We've all watched the talk and been transformed in 18 minutes or less. And it can do similar things to, let's say you write a book and it has really great impact. You can create an ecosystem around your book. You can also do that with a TED Talk. And the cool thing about having a TED Talk is that it's so shareable and it's quicker and it can affect people immediately. So before we get started, I'll just tell you a little bit about, what's happening here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to challenge some common beliefs about how to land a TEDx talk. I'm going to give you super duper simple steps to submit your application. And I'm going to use words like duper because I like dad jokes. And so duper, duper, duper. I'm going to help you make progress towards landing your TEDx talk. That is absolutely a goal of mine today. I want to give you as much valuable knowledge and information that I can to move you forward and help land that talk for you. I'm going to make you an offer too, to continue working together. Not like, I'm not going to like twist your arm, but I'm going to tell you about it and then I'll send you a follow-up email and that's really it. But today is just about giving to you and helping you land this talk. Okay. So the first section I'm calling the TED machine. Okay. So here's what we're going to cover in this section: the TED mission and why it matters, how TEDx is different than TED, for better or worse, and then how to find TEDx sites that are seeking speakers. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so let's read this TED mission really quick because we got to know what we're working with. What is this TED machine? We believe passionately in the power of ideas to change attitudes, lives, and ultimately the world. Our agenda is to make great ideas accessible and spark conversation. So why does this matter? Because it's all about your audience. And I think one of the biggest mistakes folks make when they first jump into this and they start applying and they start throwing out their ideas is they don't make it about what they're giving. Instead, it's about them and it's backwards. And so if that has been what you're leading with, you probably have not been getting a positive response. So just remember, it's all about your audience. It's all about what you're giving. What are you giving? Ask that question. What is this talk giving? What is the purpose for how we're going to impact the world and change people's lives? Is your idea worth spreading? I mean, I think that what I don't want you to do is get too in your head about like, oh, the idea isn't big enough, it's not unique enough, because the unique part or the novel part can really be about your experience or a fresh take on an idea, right? So when you ask yourself, is this idea worth spreading? The question is, can this impact the world positively? And if the answer is yes, keep running with it. All right, so know the facts about TED versus TEDx. So TEDx sites are licensed by TED, but they run independently. Okay. So what that means is that Big TED is the big organization, right? And then the TEDx sites have been licensed to run TED events. And really the purpose initially was, and still is, I think to an extent, is to bring TED to the local community and to impact your local community. So TEDx organizers are volunteers. Please know this. Please know that TED isn't paying them a ton of money. This is about a labor of love. They are organizing this because they believe in the TED mission. They can't get paid. So they can pay others to run the event, but the TEDx organizers themselves are doing this because they love it. The majority of TEDx sites only hold one event, and there's a few different reasons for that. But what you want to keep in mind is that it's difficult, and that a lot of times folks get into it and they realize that it can be a full-time job. It could be full-time work, and so it doesn't always continue on. There are some sites that have been around for a very long time, are very well established, but the majority of sites end up popping up and then they're there for one or two events and then they go away. So you are often dealing with folks who are either brand new and have just started, or are just learning. There are about 3,000 TEDx events a year, and we'll go through it in a minute, but essentially there's a map globally of how many sites there are, and all the events are published on the site so that you can see. So there is a ton of opportunity. Not every site is opening up a public speaker application. Some are invitation only, but many, maybe even most, are looking for speakers. And so there is a ton of opportunity. There is no standard application or audition process. So what does this mean? Well, it means that there's going to be variation in what they're asking for and what they're looking for. So, unfortunately, you can't just go to one place, submit your applications, and apply to 3,000 different events. It doesn't work that way. And so, you really got to be looking and searching for the ones that you want to apply to, where they are, if you're willing to travel, that sort of thing. But also, you need to be malleable in terms of completing these applications. That being said, there are pretty standard questions that they ask that you can start to be prepared for. And the more applications you submit, the easier it gets. So TEDx sites must hold events to keep their license, even virtual events. So we've all seen the new studio license that has been out, and this actually allows folks to record from wherever they are. Some people like it, some people don't. I think it was really cool to do during the pandemic as an opportunity, and also to keep things moving and alive. And if you do it well, you can get it exactly right. So I'm an advocate for virtual events in addition to in person, of course. So TED just released its new studio license. We just went through that. Okay, why does this matter? So TEDx organizers are not full-time, not experienced. So be patient, be kind, try to make their jobs easier, not harder. Okay. Follow the directions that are there. Oftentimes the page or the form will give you very detailed instructions. Don't blow up their inbox. That's not going to help you. I don't, it doesn't hurt to reach out if you have a sincere question, that sort of a thing. But there are some times I've been on the other side of selection committees on several, and to just get a ton of messages to try and influence them is not really going to help. Lose the ego and let your idea lead. So what does this mean? Well, it means that TED is all about big ideas, and if your idea is a good fit and you communicate it well, that is how you compel, that is how you influence. So put your energy there. Okay, so now let's find TEDx sites accepting applications, right? So this is the link. You go to TED.com/TEDx/events, and this will pop up. And this is, you can see this global map here, and all of the sites that are popping up are active sites because these are events that are forthcoming. So if you zoom in, let's say we wanted to go to TEDx Mile High, you go in and you can click, and then this page would pop up. And sometimes on this page, there will be a link to their website or social media, maybe, or a link to the organizer, some info about the organizer, or not. But what you know is that this is an active site, and then you can go search TEDx Mile High and see what comes up. So then if I get to TEDx Mile High website and I go to their speaker section, and then they have auditions. This is what I learned about TEDx Mile High. Well, in this case, applications to audition have closed. But you should sign up for their newsletter or whatever they have to be informed about when the next one is. And so this is an example of what you might see, and they might only be accepting applications on a rolling, or not on a rolling basis, but every so often, because they might have, I don't know, 2, 3 events a year, maybe only one. You don't know. It depends on the site. So this that was open at the time when I made this, and this is TEDx Waltham, and so this is what this is what their application looks like. Some of them say nominate a speaker. Nominate yourself. It's fine. I'm 99.9% of applications are going to be the person applying. Okay, so then you would go, you'd fill it out, and you'd submit it. And sometimes they take, I don't know. It could take a month. It could take more. Sometimes they give you a date as to when to look out for their decision. So it's a lot of work to go and search for all of that, though. So I did make you a list of every site that I could find in North America, and then in a couple other countries as well, and also the application link, so the form. And so for being here, I'm going to get that to you. That's a free gift for you. And I've got another gift for you. Stick with me to the end, and I'll share that with you. Okay. So the other thing is that I do send out a newsletter with updates about new sites that have just opened. So stick with me, and you will know when to apply. Okay, so to recap this section, TED is all about serving the audience and spreading powerful ideas. Focus your idea and lead with that in all your TED pursuits, all those applications, anyone you're interacting with at a TEDx site. Remember, TEDx organizers are volunteers, so be kind and patient. Start engaging with local TED events, sign up for their newsletters, get involved in some way, and just stay up to date on what's happening. And then use your new list that I'm going to give you so you can start applying and getting into the swing of things. Okay, next section. All right, Titan TED Talks. So here's what we're going to cover in this section: why you should write your talk before applying. I really believe that. I think it only strengthens your application because you can communicate it so clearly and so well, and it vastly increases your chances of getting selected. Also, some sites now are asking that it be completed because they've discovered that from the time that they select their speakers to the time they hit the stage, that's often not enough time to really get the talk done that you want. How to use the TED Talk form. So we're going to cover that. We're going to cover what's a through line and why it's completely paramount. A through line is like a thesis statement. And then what all TED Talks have in common we'll cover, and what a TED Talk isn't. So let's jump in. Okay, reasons to write your talk before applying, even if it's just a draft. Again, getting selected is based on how well you communicate your talk and idea. Your idea is likely going to change through the course of writing it. So you might start doing some research, and you might say, I got to tweak this part. Actually, the research shows that it didn't go quite where I thought it was going to go. If you get selected, you may have a short time to prepare. A lot of sites have figured that out. Get as excited about your content as the experience. So, I mean, the more fired up you are about what you're delivering, the more that's going to come across in your applications. And just as a general kind of philosophy, write it and they will come. I believe that. Okay, so this is the TED form, everyone. Get excited. This is what it looks like. I'm a visual person. I had to create something to help me. And this is based on Julian Treasure's talk, How to Speak So That People Want to Listen. If you haven't watched this talk, it's only 10 minutes, and it's one of the most brilliant speeches and wonderfully crafted speeches you'll ever listen to. And these are essentially the sections, right? We have our intro, body, and conclusion. And this is what a TED Talk does, essentially. We open strong, we grab attention. It could be a startling statement. It could be a question. It could be a short story. And whatever we do builds common ground. It lets folks know what we're talking about, what the topic is, and it links to our through line, which I will tell you about in just a minute. And the next thing we want to do is state the problem as quickly as we can. If there's no problem, there's really no interest from your audience. And this is just human nature. If we don't have a problem to solve, a problem to focus on, our interest wanes. And so we need to be able to state that quickly up front so that people know where to focus. So then what we want to do is we want to build the problem. We want to uh, create urgency and raise the stakes. And so, here's the problem. But then did you know how big this problem is? Did you know how urgent this problem is? Did you know if you don't act now, that sort of a thing. And so it's really, it makes us have an investment in this problem. And then in the body, what we're doing is we're giving examples of the solution, providing solutions. And then towards the end, we're answering this question of, why are we the person to give this talk? Why is it that only us can give this talk? And we kind of review and summarize and that sort of thing. The conclusion is about a call to action. What do you want your audience to do at the end of this talk? And so through the whole talk, what essentially we're doing is taking people from what is the problem to what could be, and creating a new vision, a new world, a new bliss. That is a TED Talk, my friends. Okay. So now I want to show you what Julian Treasure actually does. So up front, this is how he begins, and let's see if he does what we think he will do. And we'll watch this ad for
The Olympics and Paralympics are back. And watching our athletes.
The Olympics are back. I love that intro music.
The human voice. It's the instrument we all play. It's the most powerful sound in the world, probably. It's the only one that can start a war or say, I love you. And yet many people have the experience that when they speak, people don't listen to them.
The human voice right away grabs our attention. It's the only one that can say, I love you, or start a war. Woo, okay, I'm hooked. I mean, that's a startling statement, my friends. I'm just like, wow, that was powerful. Okay. And then immediately after grabbing our attention and letting us know what the topic is, then we know the problem immediately. We're talking about 10, 15 seconds here in. Now we know that, and yet most of us have the experience that when we talk, people don't listen, and we can all relate to that. So we've got our attention getter, we've got the problem, and Julian doesn't state his through line up front, but he does give it to us clearly at the end. And so let's see where he goes with it. And we'll go back.
The Olympics and Paralympics are back.
Hang on.
And watching our athletes.
Next time you speak, do those in advance. Now, let me just put this in context to close. This is a serious point here. This is where we are now, right? We speak not very well into people who simply aren't listening in an environment that's all about noise and bad acoustics. I have talked about that on this stage in different phases. What would the world be like if we were speaking powerfully to people who are listening consciously in environments which were actually fit for purpose? Or to make that a bit larger, what would the world be like if we were creating sound consciously and consuming sound consciously and designing all our environments consciously for sound? That would be a world that does sound beautiful, and one where understanding would be the norm. And that is an idea worth spreading.
So that's when he gives us that through line, that understanding would be the norm. And that's where he wants to take us to. That's his new vision, where if we have these tools, then we can create a world where understanding is the norm. And that's his through line, and that's where we arrive to. The next one I want to go quickly is Brian Stevenson's talk, and it's really, really beautiful. Oh, hang on. We got to do ads, y'all. So Brian gives us his through line up front, but he walks us through a story first to arrive at through. And this is easily my favorite talk. And so I just want you to enjoy this story, see what he does with it, see how upfront he gives us topic, then gives us story, then connects the lesson of the story to through line.
Well, this is a really extraordinary honor for me. I spend most of my time in jails and prisons on death row. I spend most of my time in very low-income communities, in the projects and places where there's a great deal of hopelessness. And being here at TED and seeing the stimulation, hearing it, has been very, very energizing to me. And one of the things that's emerged in my short time here is that TED has an identity. And you can actually say things here that have impacts around the world, and sometimes when it comes through TED, it has meaning and power that it doesn't have when it doesn't. And I mention that because I think identity is really important. And we've had some fantastic presentations, and I think what we've learned is that if you're a teacher, your words can be meaningful, but if you're a compassionate teacher, they can be especially meaningful. If you're a doctor, you can do some good things, but if you're a caring doctor, you can do some other things. So I want to talk about the power of identity. And I didn't learn about this actually practicing law and doing the work that I do. I actually learned about this from my grandmother. I grew up in a house that was the traditional African-American home that was dominated by a matriarch, and that matriarch was my grandmother. She was tough, she was strong, she was powerful. She was the end of every argument in our family. She was the beginning of a lot of arguments in our family. She was the daughter of people who were actually enslaved. Her parents were born in slavery in Virginia in the 1840s. She was born in the 1880s, and the experience of slavery very much shaped the way she saw the world. My grandmother was tough, but she was also loving. When I would see her as a little boy, she'd come up to me and she'd give me these hugs, and she'd squeeze me so tight I could barely breathe. And then she'd let me go. And an hour or two later, if I saw her, she'd come over to me and she'd say, "Brian, do you still feel me hugging you?" And if I said no, she'd assault me again, and if I'd say yes, she'd leave me alone. And she just had this quality that you always wanted to be near her. And the only challenge was that she had 10 children. My mom was the youngest of her 10 kids, and sometimes when I would go and spend time with her, it'd be difficult to get her time and attention. My cousins would be running around everywhere, and I remember when I was about 8 or 9 years old, waking up one morning, going into the living room, and all of my cousins were running around, and my grandmother was sitting across the room staring at me. And at first I thought we were playing a game. And I would look at her and I'd smile, but she was very serious. And after about 15 or 20 minutes of this, she got up and she came across the room and she took me by the hand and she said, "Come on, Brian, you and I are going to have a talk." And I remember this just like it happened yesterday. I never will forget it. She took me out back and she said, "Brian, I'm going to tell you something, but you don't tell anybody what I tell you." I said, "Okay, Mom." She said, "Now you make sure you don't do that." I said, "Sure." Then she sat me down and she looked at me and she said, "I want you to..." She said, "The first thing I want you to promise me is that you'll always love your mom." She said, "That's my baby girl, and you have to promise me now you'll always take care of her." Well, I adored my mom, so I said, "Yes, Mama, I'll do that." Then she said, "The second thing I want you to promise me is that you'll always do the right thing, even when the right thing is the hard thing." And I thought about it, and I said, "Yes, Mama, I'll do that." Then finally she said, "The third thing I want you to promise me is that you'll never drink alcohol." Well, I was 9 years old, so I said, "Yes, Mama, I'll do that." I grew up in the country in the rural South, and I have a brother a year older than me and a sister a year younger. And when I was about 14 or 15, one day my brother came home, and he had this six-pack of beer. I don't know where he got it. And he grabbed me and my sister, and we went out in the woods, and we were kind of just out there doing the stuff we crazily did. And he had a sip of this beer, and he gave some to my sister, and she had some, and they offered it to me. And I said, no, that's okay, y'all go ahead. I'm not going to have any beer. And my brother said, "Come on, we're doing this today. You always do what we do. I had some, your sister had some, have some beer." I said, no, I don't feel right about that. Y'all go ahead, y'all go ahead. And then my brother started staring at me. He said, what's wrong with you? Have some beer. Then he looked at me real hard. He said, oh, I hope you're not still hung up on that conversation Mama had with you. I said, well, what are you talking about? He says, oh, Mama tells all the grandkids that they're special. I was devastated. And I'm going to admit something to you. I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't. I know might be broadcast broadly, but I'm 52 years old, and I'm going to admit to you that I've never had a drop of alcohol. I don't say that because I think that's virtuous. I say that because there is power in identity. When we create the right kind of identity, we can say things to the world around us that they don't actually believe make sense. We can get them to do things that they don't think they can do. When I thought about my grandmother.
And there it is, my friends. When we create the right kind of identity, we can get people to do the things that they didn't think were possible, that they didn't think they could do. And so what he does here so masterfully, and it's a long story, but it's all necessary. It's all needed. You see that grandma is the protagonist. Grandma's the hero in the story, and we need some context to fully understand it. We don't know why exactly this is the perfect story, but that's revealed through the course of his talk. But where it does arrive, the takeaway is that when we create the right kind of identity, we can do things that we never thought were possible. And this is as in to the conversation of racial injustice. And it's such a beautiful in because when we talk about identity, everyone has an identity. We're building common ground in this way. And so everyone has an access point. It's not polarizing. And then he can begin to tell us what the problem is and what the solutions are to that problem. Now, the power of this story is incredible. And it's so compelling for us to arrive where he would like us to arrive. So he opens with story and he closes with story. And that's one of the reasons why his talk is one of the most popular. And he also raised a ton of money for his organization. One more thing I will say is that Brian has 2 degrees from Harvard. He abolished a law that allowed for children to be incarcerated for their entire life. And he started an organization that works towards fighting injustice and getting folks off of death row who were wrongfully convicted. None of this does he tell you up front. Rather, to compel, he opens the story. And when we're trying to compel, when we're trying to persuade, story is the greatest tool that we have. Okay, so what is a through line? We saw examples of what they looked like, right? But here is what Chris Anderson, head of TED, says. There's a helpful word used to analyze plays, movies, and novels. It applies to talks too. It is through line, the connecting theme that ties together each narrative element. Every talk should have one. So if you don't know what that is yet, you're not ready to apply. Right? If you don't have that nailed down, they specifically ask for it in applications. And they might say it like this. They might say, in one sentence, tell us what your talk is about. That's your through line. Okay. So through line is the point. It's like the thesis of your talk. Every example shown or story told leads back to the through line. The perfection of that story is that it was used to prove through line, to announce his through line. And then everything that he chooses in the middle has to link back to what that through line is about, how when we create the right kind of identity, we can do things we never thought were possible. So through line is what you want your audience to leave with. So think about it this way. When you give your talk and people are talking about your talk, in the lobby and they're going, oh, I missed that talk. What was it about? You want them to be able to identify and say your through line to another person. That's the takeaway. So why is this important to you? This is what will get you selected, folks. Most applications won't even have a clear through line. And I say that being on the other side of selection committees and seeing what comes through, that is the number one reason why we can't move forward with an application. it doesn't have a clear through line yet. We don't actually know what we would be inviting in. It's not there yet. So it guides your talk. It makes it enjoyable. It makes it impactful. Here's a couple of examples. Vulnerability should be treasured, not hidden from. Do we know what talk that is? Yes, if you watch TED Talks, you know that that's Brene Brown. I mean, one of the most popular faces of TED. And the perfection of this through line at the moment, just the right moment when I think we just needed to hear it and to know it and to see the evidence for it, it just blew up. And I still to this day go back and watch it. Vulnerability should be treasured, not hidden from. The second one here, more choice actually makes us less happy. So this is from a talk called The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz, who's a renowned psychologist. And i- what you'll notice about both of these through lines is that even within the through line, they are taking us from what is to what could be, or something that we believe that is wrong, that that should be over here, right? So we're doing this with vulnerability, we should be doing this. Did you know that what you believe about choice is actually not true? It makes you less happy. We often think about choice and abundance of choice as being this great privilege, but it makes us less happy. So when you think about your talk and when you think about what that through line is, also ask yourself the question, what am I moving people from and then to? And that might help you arrive. Okay, so all TED Talks have these three components: the emotional, the novel, and the memorable. And the emotional tends to come from our stories. And so that's that narrative story component, that element, that pull, that personal. The novel is, what is the unique nature about it? Or what is the different angle or perspective that you're coming into it with? And don't be dissuaded by the fact that your topic may be a topic that people talk about and know. Rather just focus on, what is what is my experience, what is the perspective that may be fresh, new, unique. And then the third, memorable. There's a lot of different ways to create memorable moments, but I think, again, story is one of them. The way that we package content and talk about it, like if we used an acronym, for example, and we want people to remember something, or if there's a particular, sometimes it's a joke that kind of links back to our through line. There's this talk about procrastination that, the one thing I always remember is, like, at the end, he's like, okay, go and, you should do this today. And he's like, well, maybe not today. And it's about procrastination. I love it. I think it's hilarious. Okay. A TED Talk is not a lecture, a motivational speech, or a personal story. A lot of applications will lean on this sort of motivational speech slash personal story. Now, you will use personal story in your talk. There will be moments where you use it, but the whole thing cannot be about a personal story. It starts to take on this just sort of ego presence. And again, when we tell stories, we're actually lifting up a hero. We cannot be the hero of our own story. That's not what a speaker does. If it was an inspirational speech, a motivational speech, yes, you can do that, but that's not what a TED Talk is. Okay. And somebody's mowing their lawn. I apologize. So to recap, write your talk before you apply. It will help you communicate it clearly. TED Talks have a structure. Make sure to use it. Your through line will put you head and shoulders above the competition. Trust me, get this right and you will stand out. Great TED Talks have the emotional, the novel, and the memorable. And TED Talks are not motivational speeches. They're not personal stories. They're not lectures. And that's not like Caesar's thing. That comes directly from TED. So just know that that's their expectation. Okay. So now we're moving into applications, and I want to teach you how to really put one together that's great. So this is what we're going to cover: how to complete a winning TEDx application form, how to record the right submission video, and then application pro tips. So this is actually an application from TED Global. This is what it looks like. And they call it a speaker nomination form. And they ask some questions here that you're going to see in other applications because other applications are borrowing from Big TED. So it says share a brief biography that includes information about this speaker and and its connection to their topic. So when they ask for a bio, don't give them all the things, the trophy from eighth grade basketball tournament. Like it has to connect to what you're talking about. So make sure that it's curated, it's manicured to fit all of it. What are you talking about? Why are you the person to give this talk? That's really what you're answering. And then what is the unique idea that that the speaker wants to share? In a few sentences, please describe the core of the talk idea and what makes the talk idea new. So this essentially is just a 3-sentence version of what you're talking about. It would be the shortest form of your talk. And then the next sentence, in one sentence, what is the key takeaway? This is your through line. So the way they word it is, what do you want the audience to know or feel after hearing this talk? And so that's your through line. So if I was Brene Brown, I would say, don't run away from vulnerability, lean into it, or however she worded it. Okay, and then some will ask you what category you fall into. They'll want to know what your speaking experience is. Don't be afraid if you don't have public speaking experience, because actually a lot of TEDx sites may prefer that you're not a professional speaker, because a lot of times professional speakers may come across as trying to gain something rather than give something. And so, don't worry if that experience isn't there. And in some ways it's seen as a positive. Okay. And then they might ask for some video or some audio of you speaking. If you have something great, and most of them aren't going to require this. They might require a video application, which they'll tell you exactly what they want you to say. And then this one also says provide links to articles, or they're trying to understand, why are you, again, the person to give this talk? What credibility do you have? What do you carry? But just know that if it's all not there, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get selected. Okay, good. Now let's look at a TEDx application. And this is from TEDx Waltham, the one that I showed you earlier that came up. So if I was Brene, I'd be filling it in. Brene Brown. Her email is vulnerable. Don't know if you knew that. And so the next section is the talk description. Again, very short version of your talk. Intro, body, close, brief speaker bio. Only place the parts of your bio that relate to your talk. And then share a link to a short video of you briefly describing your idea and any other links you'd like to share. So this is the most common one. With the application, it's like, hey, in 3 minutes or less, the first video, they usually say, just tell us about your talk and about yourself. And that's where you want to focus in and make sure that they know what your through line is, who you are, and why you're the person to give this talk. And you kind of give them like the miniest version of your talk. Okay. In this one, they actually ask for what the connection is to Waltham. Some may ask that. It doesn't mean that if you don't live there, that you won't get selected, but it does hint that their preference would be towards local folks. Okay, so this is Mallory, and Mallory landed her second talk recently, and that's going to be coming out soon. She took our masterclass and excelled, landed a talk, I think, in like the second or third week of the masterclass. And this is her original application video. Let's see what she does.
Hi, my name is Mallory DeSalle, and I have to be honest with you. It has taken me about 400 attempts to make this 1-minute video, and here's why. I kept finding flaws. The truth is that that's a perfect reason for me to give this TED Talk. Searching for strengths instead of finding flaws is exactly what I want to talk about.
So she gives us her through line. She opens with kind of like an attention getter, a question, right? Like it's a mini version of a talk. Her personality is present, which is good. And let's see what else she does.
In 2019, I invited 25 people to go out with the sole purpose of searching for strengths in others. And what happened after that was pretty miraculous. Not only did it change the lives of the people involved, but it influenced a shift in the community of people surrounding everyone. So I invite you to hear more about how affirmations are something that anyone can use to influence change.
All right. So not bad, right? I'd get that's pretty good, huh? Come on, Mallory. Yeah. I mean, she got it. She got selected. She moved on. And her idea changed actually quite a bit from this initial video. But what you want to notice is that, there's nothing grand about this production. You can do this on your phone in your room. Just make sure the lighting is good and people can hear you. And then you communicate the thing and you get right into it. Again, I think this was excellent. It wasn't too overly dramatic or performative. A lot of times folks want to just show us how much they want this and they love it. And it's really more about the message and getting it across and us being able to see you and your message on the stage. Okay. So some more pro tips on the application. So I want you to think like a TEDx organizer. Think to yourself, who is the ideal speaker for a TEDx organizer? They're credible, they're authentic, they can speak publicly, but not necessarily a professional speaker. If you are, that's good too. Uh, Someone who wants to give, not gain, that's huge. And someone with a big idea. I mean, sometimes the idea is just so good that it doesn't matter what anything else looks like in the application. You're like, that idea is enormous and we must have that on our stage. Okay, so questions a TEDx organizer might ask themselves: does this talk fit into the next event theme? Now, there's a big debate about how important the theme is. Some folks don't even announce the theme until after they select their speakers because they would rather select a speaker based on how good this idea is and how good they are, and then form the theme. I actually like it that way because then when you announce the theme, then everybody's trying to force their talk into the theme and things kind of get like messy and you're not quite sure if that's a real thing or they just did that because that's the theme. What I would say is that I would apply wherever to whenever because you want to put yourself out there. And I applied for something where I knew the theme didn't really fit, but I didn't change my idea to fit it. And what ended up happening, this is for my third talk. What ended up happening is they said, "Hey, for this event it's not a great fit, but we want to use you on this other event because we love your idea." And so for me, that's my advice. Put it out there. Do we already have someone speaking on this topic? They may ask themselves that. So they could love your idea, but they may have selected a speaker with a similar idea and they don't want, as an event organizer, you don't want overlapping ideas. Is this person reliable, friendly, understanding of the TED mission, and able to work with a volunteer staff? So know that that's going to be a question for them. Okay. Do not appear as though you want to sell something like your book. Now, don't be offended if you have a book and you also want a talk about your book, because totally fine. And there are a ton of people who have done the book and then done the TED Talk or vice versa. But what I'm saying is in the application, you don't want to give them the sense that you want this talk to promote your book. That's not why you do a TED. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of folks that submit and they go, this is my talk and it's about my book and hey, check it out. It's on Amazon. And it's kind of like, you know, that's great. The credibility is great if you have a book and it's best selling, and that's awesome. And we may love to put it on the stage, but do your best not to give us a sense that you're just trying to use the TED stage. So don't over dramatize or appear performative. It's not gonna appear authentic, right? And we want to know that you can be authentic on stage. Do not pester the organizers, follow the directions given. So that came up earlier. Just, it's not going to help you to kind of hit them all up on LinkedIn and email and everything else. Just go ahead and follow the application instructions. Do not use language that you wouldn't use in everyday conversation. So, again, consume some more TED Talks and look at how people are delivering. It's very much like we're just hanging out. It's very conversational. And so be true to you, be true to yourself, and use language that is everyday language that you would use. Okay, recap. So do your TED and TEDx research, know the mission, discover TEDx sites seeking speakers, and engage with them. Write your talk, and most importantly, your through line. Try to get that, as much of that, done before you apply. Submit your application with all the above knowledge and land your first talk, y'all, or your second, or your third, or your fifth. I just love it. All right, so what's next? Check your email. I'm going to send you the list, and I'm also going to tell you about our masterclass. So that's the spoiler. I want to continue to work with you. I want to help you write the best TED Talk possible and apply and get the best application possible and get selected. 1, 2, 3 talks later. Lisa's on the call now. Lisa's got 2 talks. Her second one will be coming out soon. She is a star student. And look at her, she's still here and learning and still doing stuff. So here's what I want to share with you. We can do a little Q&A. If there's any questions about anything that you've seen, please go ahead and just either pop it in the chat, or you can pop it into the Q&A box also. And this is what I want to share this with you too. Let me go ahead and move over. And I'll have you take a look. So this is our master class, and we have essentially a 6-week program. It's myself and Sarah Tierney Hinkle, who is the director of speech and debate at Colorado College. She has national teams that have won national championships, and she's incredible. Helped me build the curriculum, and she's going to be one of the coaches that you can go to, and I will be leading the course. And so what you get essentially are speech templates, the TEDx submission list. You're going to get a coaching call every week where we deliver the material. And then on the weekend, we'll also do feedback sessions on Saturday. And so you can come and actually deliver and get feedback on what you've created. And then we also have a really supportive private Facebook group that has all of our content from all previous sessions, from every organizer to every speaker we've interviewed. It's just a ton of content that is pointed at exactly what we're trying to help you achieve, which is to land a talk and to deliver the talk, the best possible talk, a viral TED Talk, a TED Talk with huge impact. So here's what we do. So week 1 is about your big idea. Week 2 is about the through line. Week 3 is vision building. 4 is about the close of your speech. 5 is about the opening of your speech. And then 6 is about your application and presentation and making sure that you're getting it out there. And you have the list with you, and you have all the tools and resources, and you have that as an ongoing resource. So we're going to start on Wednesday, August 4th. It's open now. I have 3 seats left. Okay. So I was putting this together, and I was like, okay, there's still going to be some seats for this moment. And essentially, these are all folks who have landed talks through the masterclass. Right now, it's $4.99. Okay. This is what I'm going to do for everyone who's on this call. So if you go to enroll now, I want 3 of you. I just want to close the class. I want 3 of you to go do this thing. If you sign up now, you can put in the coupon code 99 off, and it'll only be $400. And it's a ton of value. You're getting way more than what you're paying for. But for being here, for listening, for checking this out, for being on the Facebook page, however you found us, I want to give you that gift. And I want to close the class today. And so if you go, I'll pop it in the chat. I'll give you the link. It's CesarCervantes.tv/TEDx. And then you go to enroll, you put in 99 off, and you are enrolled. We're going to start Wednesday. It's going to be awesome. And yes, is that Emilio? Emilio, yes, there are talks in Mexico. We have a list. You can find those opportunities anywhere in the world. And so, yes, there are talks in Mexico that you can apply for. So let me put in the link now. .tv. Okay. And if you do it now, you've got that coupon code 99 off. That's a gift just for being here. I appreciate all of you. All right. What other questions do we have? I'm happy to answer anything. I'm here with you. What else came up? Would love to answer anything you have. Let's see. Christopher's still here. Abraham's here. Emmy or Emilio, I can't tell. I think it's Gain and Tim. You bet. You're welcome. Okay, we do have one other thing to do, which is we got to do the close of this, y'all. So if you're feeling like dancing from where you're at, I highly recommend to just get a little bit of that going on. Come on now. All right. Well, if you didn't get your question in, you're welcome to shoot me an email from the emails that you've been getting from me. And like I said, I'll be following up as well. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, everyone. I really appreciate you. Have an amazing weekend. Get in, sign up for the masterclass. Let's close it out today, y'all. Let's close it out. All right.